Hey YouTube, I just wanted to share my Shoreline loot route that I use on Escape from Tarkov to make rubles. The goal of this loot route is to be as safe as possible and to make as much rubles as possible through hitting the stashes, safes, and two key locations that I'm going to show you. I'm going to start this video off with a strategic analysis of the route I take, and then I'm going to show some gameplay of me hitting the stashes and safes. Now, to begin, we are not going to go to resort. This is a hot spot, and everybody runs here because of the loot. The loot is great, especially if you have the keys for the resort. We're going to stay away from there. So let's just say we spawn close to the road to customs extract. First, we're going to hit this stash. We're going to come down here, hit these stashes. Then we're going to come down to the dock, hit that stash. Watch out for the scav spawn here. Gonna come up, hit this stash, and then we're gonna get to one of the major choke points of the map, and we'll call this area the Pier. Now, there's a scav boss that spawns here called Sanitar, and there's scavs that spawn here as well. This is somewhat of a hot spot as well, not as bad as the resort, but people do come here mainly because there is a building in this area right here that has two safes, two computers, and file cabinets that you can loot. Now, if this place is too hot, I would not recommend going to the Pier. You have two other options, at least for this guide, and that is to come up through here, hit that stash, and then go straight into the power station, which is another choke point. You have to watch out for the scav sniper and scavs that spawn here. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The loot here is really not that great. I wouldn't concern myself with the loot. I would just use this as a safe passage to get away from the possible PMCs and Scav boss Sanitar if they spawn down here, or if it's too hot down here. If it's too hot at the power station, you want to come up here, which is another choke point, and it's the closest choke point to the resort that we're going to be using. You can come down here and hit this stash. Very rarely do I have to use this area. Usually it's either power station choke point or Pier choke point that you have to get into. So you really want to be careful when you come up here, obviously, because you're close to the resort. And the resort is a no-go zone for this guide, so let's go back to the Pier. Now, like I said before, you have a building with two safes, two computers, and file cabinets that you can loot, which is located around here. So you make your way down this road, you loot that, and then you have two extracts, which is the Pier boat here. Sometimes it spawns, sometimes it doesn't, it's random. And the next extract you have is a lighthouse, which is here. Now, generally, if you've hit all of these stashes up until the Pier on this red line, your backpack for the most part will be full, especially if these are uncontested or unlooted. Even when the loot spawns for the stashes are random. So if you have an extract for the Pier boat or the lighthouse, I would use it. Otherwise, you're going to have to move out. Now, a note to take when you're going to the lighthouse extract specifically. this is a danger zone. And this beach is a danger zone, which you're going to have to cross to get to the lighthouse extract. So what you want to do is you want to stay on the south side of the beach where the low ground is. You're open to fire from this area here. They have a direct line of sight to this beach. So I would check this area up here to make sure there's no PMCs. And then I would move to the lighthouse on the south side of the beach. If you end up miscalculating and somebody ends up showing up as you're crossing the beach, you can go into the prone position and kind of crawl your way to the extract. It's not a clear-cut path. You're going to have to be out in the open to get to the lighthouse extract, but that's just something to keep in mind. So once we're done looting the building with the 2 safes in it, we're going to take another route, which is south of the road, the main road with the black car on it, to get to the pier, which is going to be here. And it's going to take you to the beach. There's a stash that spawns here. Also, this plate, it's unnecessary risk for you to run on the road with the black car on it. This is a much safer path because if you run on the road with the black car on it, people have a direct line of sight from this position here and this position here. When you're using this alternative route that I just showed, you're in cover, and for the most part you can't be seen by those 2 positions. Now, once we're done looting the stash, there's a key spawn on one of the white lounge chairs that we can hit. And once it's clear, once this hilltop here is clear, we can cross over the guardrails and make our way towards the construction site. Now, you have to watch out for sniper scav and scavs in general. They are overlooking this open area here, so you want to minimize your time out in the open and save your sprint to sprint across this field here. So once you've done that, we get to the construction site. There's a stash here, and then we get to the cottages. Now, there's 2 cottages that you can loot in this area. One of them requires a key and the other one does not. The one that requires a key has 2 safes, and one of the safes also requires a key. The key that you need to get into this specific cottage, which would be the first cottage you see if you're exiting the construction site, spawns on top of blue barrels, which I'll showcase in the gameplay that I'm going to show. The next cottage you can open the door and walk into, go up on the 2nd floor. There's a safe, a regular safe, and a gun safe. Also, there's a computer up there, and there's 2 coats in this room that can spawn keys. This area, the cottage area, is, if it's hot, I would recommend avoiding it. Sanitar can spawn here, scavs can spawn here, PMCs will frequent this location as well. So if you can't guaranteed get the loot and get out safely, or eliminate the threats that are around that area safely, I would take an alternative route, and that would be to hit the stash, come out the back of the construction site around this pond, and then hit this stash and then move your way into the town. Now, once you're done with the cottages, you're going to move your way to the town. You're going to forget about this stash here. It's on a cul-de-sac like area. It's a dead end. It's, in my opinion, it's not worth looting that, even if you think it's safe, because if you're caught out in the open, there's no cover for you in this stash location. So we're going to move into the town, and there's going to be a house with lots of sports bags, 2 coats that you can loot. Once you've left the house, you can make your way around this other house to hit this stash. Do not stay in this road here. It is a death trap. You will die. It's an unnecessary risk that you would take, and it's completely avoidable. You can get to the stash by going around and going through the back of the fence to get to the stash. Once you've looted this stash, you can cross the street, go into this other compound or fence-like structure, come out the back, and hit this stash by the dumpster. Now, you don't have to show yourself in the main road. You can see the stash, if it's there or not, through the cracks of the fence. That's what I like to do. So then we're going to move to another store location, which is here, which has a gun safe, or not a gun safe, sorry, a weapons case, and some loose loot on shelves that you can pick up. And once you've exited that house, you'll be at an extract, the dead end extract, and there's also a stash here that you can get. Now, once you've done that, the loot run is basically over. You should have a full backpack. You should be overloaded with loot. If you get unlucky and don't get the lighthouse or pier boat extract, and you have to make your way all the way to the dead end extract, or the ruined house extract, or the tunnel and ruined road extract. You should be good on loot. Now, places that I would avoid would be this area up here, which is the swamp. I don't think that this area is worth looting. It's too much of a risk. It's right next to the popular path to lighthouse extract, and players will run across the fence, and you're out in the open and you're in swamp water, so there's really not much you can do as far as cover. There are buildings, but I just think that the stashes in this location aren't worth it. Now, if you spawn on the dead end extract, you just do this route in the opposite. Yeah. And everything should be fine. Another stash location that I would avoid is the island. You're out in the open. You also have to get on decayed excuse me, a decayed boat to get there, and you make a lot of noise running on the steel. So I would stay away from this area and this area. So that's the strategic analysis of the loot run that I like to use on Shoreline. I don't have a problem with rubles if I'm using this route. I didn't play this current wipe, but I've played the previous wipes, and I've never been short of rubles. The number one thing that I can tell you is to be safe and only go for kills if it's 100% guaranteed you can get the kill and move on. Now, this particular map I'm using is on a website called Map Genie. It's an excellent website for Escape from Tarkov maps. I'll leave a link in the description below, so you guys can check out the map for yourself. They also have other maps. It's not only just Shoreline. And the cool thing about the website is you can actually disable icons. So like if you don't want to see stashes, you can disable that. If you don't want to see scav spawns, you can disable that. Scav bosses, etc. So another cool thing about this website is you can actually see where the stashes are located. by clicking the icon, it'll give you a clear picture of the surrounding area and the stash location itself. So if you get lost, this website map has you covered. So I hope you guys enjoyed the analysis. Let's get into some gameplay. Alright guys, so I spawned at the other side of the map. Unfortunately, this is an offline raid, so we don't have to worry about players and scavs. This is just to mainly show you where the stashes are and some tips and tricks along the way. Like I said, I didn't play this wipe, so I really don't have a means to defend myself. This character is level 1, so I ran close to the road to customs extract to be as close to the strategic map analysis part of the video as possible. So let's get started. So we're going to make our way to this first stash, and this stash is the radio tower stash, I'm going to call it. Pretty easy to remember. It's this big radio tower, along with this red structure looking thing, and right here's the stash. As you can see around the surrounding area. So when you're moving from stash to stash, obviously you want to stay in cover. I like to scan the area before and after I loot the stash, just to make sure there's no players around or scavs or anything like that. But for the sake of keeping this video short, I'm not going to do that. So this next stash we're coming up on is the sunken house stash. Another pretty easy to remember stash. Just this sunken house, steel roof, and right here is where the stash would be. This next stash is a little bit more difficult to remember. I sometimes skip it because I have trouble finding it still after all this time playing. You can see it. You can see it right there. It's in this bush. Now, this is the view that you would get. You can see two rocks with the sunken house. And the bush be right here, and there's a stash. So I would pop a mule for this video, but I don't have one. I haven't really played this wipe, like I said, so just bear with me. I tried to gear out my character to somewhat be realistic on what you would expect the time to be as far as stamina drain is concerned. This is the next stash location. As you can see, it's at this cross grave-like wooden thing, and if you're looking at it, you're looking towards the north, it's the first tree directly to the right. That's where the stash is going to be located. So next we're going to make our way towards the dock. One thing I forgot to mention in map analysis part of the video is the radio station that's in this direction. I would try to avoid it. Players like to run there if they spawn close to this area. So there it is right there. It's got alright loot. I tend to avoid it because, like I said, there's too many players. So if you feel confident, you can go loot it. This is another easy stash to remember. It's by the dock. You know you're at the right pile of tires if you see the blue porta potty right here. So here's the stash. And the next stash is directly across from the dock at this large formation of rocks. Here it is right here. There's the power station, or the radio station again. I would recommend to hit the stash always. Do not stay in this dock area or run across that fence, because you're kind of trapped if you do that. You have to run out in the open to get out of there, and there's only a couple spots that you can do that in. Here we're coming up on the next stash. Now this stash is right here. This is where the stash would spawn. It's next to this small cluster of rocks, and there's the house right there, so you can use those for landmarks. The stash would spawn right here. So now we're coming up on the pier, which is one of the major choke points and an excellent spot for loot. I would proceed with caution when you're coming up on this spot. Scan the area, left to right, move slow, be quiet, because players like to sit up on this rock right here. And sometimes you'll get a jump on somebody and you get a free kill. Other times they might hear you if you're running, but this is a popular spot for players to sit at. Now, sometimes this crate spawns here, sometimes it doesn't. I wouldn't recommend hitting this crate. You're just too out in the open, and I really try to minimize my time coming through this area. There's just too many angles that you can get shot from. So I skip that crate and go down this road. Be careful when you're coming into the pier. Sanitar has a chance to spawn here. Scavs also can spawn here, and PMCs will frequent this area. For this building right here has file cabinets and 2 safes that I'm going to show you here. Now when you're looting this safe, try to get as close to it as possible in the corner, because you will get shot if there's anybody looking in this window, and I check this window all the time. You'll get headshotted while you're looting the safe, so be careful. There's a computer there. Another safe right here, and a computer there. I tend to skip the file cabinets. They just take too long to loot, and I don't like being in this choke point for very long. I'll loot it if I have the Pier boat extract or the lighthouse extract, but very rarely. So right here is where the Pier boat extract is. You are open. You do have to run out in the open to get to that extract, so a lot of times you'll get sniped from the hill over there. And this is the lighthouse extract coming up right here. Now, when you're moving to this extract, like I said in the map analysis part of the video, you want to stay on the low ground and get in as much cover as possible. You're open to this area here. As you can see, very clear line of sight to this beach. If you do get shot, go prone and hope that you can make it to those cement blocks in time before they run here. They have a buddy run there. And then make it to the extract here. Now, this is another stash that I will skip. Like I said before about being out in the open, it's just too much of a risk. So I'll skip that stash. Definitely skip that crate. And right there's the extract. And don't forget to use your free look, guys. It's super helpful. Scan to left to right. Make sure there's no people watching you or stalking you, or make sure the area is clear. Now this next part we're coming up on is the alternative route outside of this pier that I was talking about in map analysis part of the video. Instead of going up this road to get out of the pier, you want to take a left and go down this other path. You're going to have to be exposed to this hill for a very short amount of time, a couple seconds, and believe me, that's enough to get you killed, but it's a lot safer than just running down that road and being out in the open. This next stash is in these blue shower cubicles, changing cubicles. As you can see right here, pretty easy to remember. And the key spawn for the resort spawns on this lounge chair, so always check that. Now you want to peek your head up a little bit, scan the area, scan this hill. This is a popular spot for players. You know, left to right, and then once it's clear, free to go. I like to move on the left side of this hill because on the southern part of this hill there's just water, so you're kind of clear on this part. I mean, sometimes you'll get a Timmy that runs on the road and on the beach like this, or a scab that doesn't give a shit if he dies or not, but it's a lot safer than just running straight up this hill. And you can scan this hill like this to look for players. Now this is another part where you're kind of exposed and out in the open. Save your stamina before you run out in the open like this, because this is a terrible position to be in, especially if someone's on that hill right there. You're out in the open and you have no cover, so you want to minimize your time on the open ground by sprinting. Look left to right. Come up on this hill. Sniper scav spawns here, and sometimes there'll be scavs roaming that complex. This is another dangerous part of the route. And you want to minimize your time on this open field by sprinting. Next, we're coming up on the construction site. At this point, you should be able to tell if things by the cottages right there are hot or not. If they're hot, use the alternative route I showcased in my map analysis part of the video. Do not go to the cottages. If you feel confident and you're a Chad and you have excellent aim, go for it. But I don't like taking risks, and this game is all about risk management, and so I'll avoid the cottages. And here's the next stash in the construction site. Pretty easy to remember. Sometimes there'll be loose loot on top of these crates as well. I like to do a little half circle around this opening right here. And this is the cottage that you need a key for. Unfortunately, I don't have a key because I haven't played this wipe, but the key will spawn on top of this on these blue barrels. The next cottage, you have to worry about Sanitar and scavs spawning in this area. Be careful. Be careful. Watch out for PMCs. Everyone likes to come to this area. Not as bad as a resort, but it's still somewhat of a popular area to come to because of the safes. Here's safe number 1, and there's a gun safe in this room that you can loot. With a weapon rack, rarely has guns on it, and another gun rack. Sometimes you get ammo that spawns on these shelves, and you get a computer right there. Coats, check them for keys. There is a sports bag, I believe, that spawns here, I think. I would avoid it. I don't like being out in the open like this, looking for loot. I mean, you can get attacked from here. Somebody could shoot you through the fence. Here. I mean, it's just too many spots. So I tend to skip it. Next, we're coming up on the house that has a lot of sports bags in it. And 2 coats, I believe. So usually one can spawn there, there. Oh, we got unlucky, but there is sports bags that spawn. There's one that spawns upstairs too, right here. Wow, we didn't get any sports bags in this house. And check the codes for keys. Right here. Now, do not run down this road, okay? Do not do it. You will die. It's an unnecessary risk. Come out through the back here to get this next stash. Here's the stash. Pretty easy to remember. It's this wooden house or a shed. There's also a crate here that you can loot. So once we're done looting that stash, you want to run across the road, come into this compound, go out the back of the fence. And right here is going to be where the next stash is, by the blue dumpster. Now I like to look through the cracks. As you can see, I don't know if you guys can see it, but the stash is right there. This way we don't expose ourselves. We're in concealment. Just to get a clear picture of the stash. There it is, blue dumpster. The next stash is here. Supposed to be here anyway, it's not there. But I sometimes skip this stash if I hear gunfire. Sometimes I'll get it, sometimes not. Usually by this time I'm overloaded with loot, so I would say most of the time I skip it. Next we're going to go in the store. There's loose loot on the shelves that you can get, and the weapon case did spawn. Nice. Some food. We're going to go out here. And we're at the dead end extract. And there's another stash here. Pretty easy to remember. Oh, I don't have these extracts. I had to run across the other side of the map to get here. But you would extract here, or you would follow this fence to get to the ruined house extract, and then follow this side of the fence to get to the tunnel or ruined road extract. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.